After my breakup, I needed a fresh start, somewhere far from my old life, quiet, unassuming. That's how I ended up in apartment 3B of an aging brick building on the edge of town. The place was cheap, probably too cheap, but I didn't ask questions. It had old wallpaper, wooden floors that groaned under every step, and a peculiar musty smell like forgotten books. But it was mine, or at least, it felt like a chance to breathe again. 3 nights in, I was pulled from sleep by a faint sound. I laid there, frozen, listening. Creak, creak, pause, creak. It came from above, not the hallway, not next door, directly above my bed. It sounded like someone was walking barefoot on the ceiling. I told myself it was just old pipes or maybe a squirrel in the roof. I even laughed a little, but the way the sound stopped, suddenly, as if someone noticed I was awake, made my skin crawl. The next morning, I asked Mr. Daly, the landlord. He lived on the ground floor. Do you know if someone lives above me? Or is there an attic? He furrowed his brow like I'd asked something stupid. Nope, just the roof. You're on the top floor. I pushed. I heard footsteps. He gave me a look that I still can't quite describe. Not confusion. Something colder. But he forced a smile. Old buildings talk at night. Don't let it spook you. The footsteps didn't stop. In fact, they got more regular. Always around 2:40 to 2:45 in the morning. Always above me. Sometimes they stopped right above where I was lying. I started recording audio on my phone, hoping to prove to myself it was all in my head. But every time I played the clips back, the sounds were gone. Like the attic knew when I was listening. I became obsessed. I started staying up, staring at the ceiling, trying to catch whatever it was in the act. One night, I turned off all the lights and laid perfectly still. And that's when I saw it. A shifting shadow, just faint enough to question but real enough to freeze me. It moved across the ceiling, pacing. I couldn't see a body, but the shadow reacted like someone was up there, walking, watching. I searched the hallway during the day and noticed something odd, a patch of the ceiling where the paint was different, flaky, newer. I got a broom, pushed up, and the ceiling opened. A hatch, hidden, a makeshift attic entrance that had been painted over to blend in. My stomach dropped. The landlord lied. I borrowed a ladder from a neighbor who didn't ask questions and climbed up. The attic was cramped, dark, and freezing. My phone flashlight barely pierced the dusty air. I scanned the floor, and that's when I saw them. Human footprints. Bare, walking in circles, fresh enough to disturb the dust. They led to a chair in the center of the attic, facing the hatch. Waiting. Behind the chair, I found a wooden box. Inside were dozens of Polaroids, grainy, discolored with age. Photos of people, sleeping, different people, different rooms, but always the same angle, always taken from above. My blood ran cold as I recognized one room, mine. There I was, in my bed, covers pulled up, mouth slightly open, completely unaware. The date on the back? 2 nights ago. I ran down to confront Mr. Daly. His apartment was empty, abandoned, no furniture, no food, no signs of life. I tried to call the number I had for him, disconnected. I looked up the building's rental listing, gone. Even on Google Maps, the building appeared blurred, as if someone or something wanted it hidden. I left that night with nothing but a backpack. I moved to a different city, changed my number, deleted my socials. But I kept one thing, the last photo in the box. It showed me, curled up in bed, same position, timestamped the night before I found the attic. Now, every few nights, around 2:42 a.m. I wake up. Sometimes I hear creaking. Sometimes I feel like I'm being watched. And every time I wonder, did something follow me down? Even after I moved, I couldn't sleep through the night. I started waking up at 2:42 a.m., not because of noise, but instinct. Like my body remembered, like something wanted me to wake. 2 weeks after moving, I saw a shadow in the corner of my new bedroom. Just for a second. When I turned my head, it was gone. But the air felt heavy, the way it used to in apartment 3B, like someone was holding their breath behind me. I had thrown away the Polaroid I kept, burned it, or so I thought. One morning, it was back, sitting on my kitchen counter. Same date, same image. But now, there was something new in the frame. A faint figure standing in the corner of the room, watching me sleep. I tried researching the building again. Still nothing. Local records had no history of its construction. Even archived newspapers skipped over that block. It was as if the entire structure had been omitted from time. Desperate, I turned to Reddit. Late one night, I found an old post titled, "Anyone ever lived in a building with a fake attic?" My heart dropped. The post described the exact layout of my old apartment, down to the faulty hallway light and the smell of mildew. The replies? All locked, except one. The attic doesn't belong to the building. It's older. I took another look at the photo box. One corner had a burned-in symbol, 3 concentric circles, with a line through them like a slit pupil. I started seeing the same mark in my dreams, sometimes on walls, sometimes carved into people. I woke up one morning to find 3 hours missing. My phone had audio recorded between 2:40 and 5:55 a.m. All static, except for one part. A whisper, barely audible. It said, "You went back." I set up a mirror facing my bed, then filmed through the night. The next day, when I checked the footage, I saw myself get up around 2:42 a.m. But I didn't wake up. I stood, walked to the wall, and whispered into it. Then I returned to bed like nothing happened. A knock at my door. An old woman with clouded eyes. "Are you the one from 3B? She asked. I nodded. Her expression fell. "You need to leave. You don't walk away from the attic. It follows you." Following her warning, I began peeling back paint in my new apartment. Something told me to look. Under the layers, scratched into the drywall, was the same 3-ring symbol. I'd never touched that wall before. My dreams changed. I wasn't in them. I was watching myself sleep. From above, the perspective was exactly like the attic Polaroids. I could even hear the floor creak in my dream. I returned to the attic. I know, I shouldn't have, but it was still there. Except now, there were 2 chairs, both facing each other. One of them had fresh footprints beneath it. I found a hidden compartment under the Polaroids. Inside, old cassettes. I borrowed a recorder and played one. Voices. Some were crying. One was chanting the same phrase over and over. "He who watches from above becomes what he sees." I tracked down a construction worker who claimed to have helped renovate that building in the 80s. He remembered bricking off a staircase to a 5th floor that was never listed. It wasn't part of the plans, he said, but we were told to seal it. Using blueprints he sketched from memory, I found where the sealed door would have been. It aligned perfectly with my bedroom ceiling, meaning the attic wasn't above the building. It was in a forgotten room between floors. I removed the vent cover in my new apartment and recorded inside. What I caught made my blood turn to ice. Voices, not whispers, conversations. One voice was mine, saying things I'd never said. I set up another mirror. This time, I woke up at 2:42, wide awake, and looked directly into it. The reflection stared back blankly, then smiled, while I didn't. I haven't looked into a mirror since. People around me began acting strangely. A neighbor I barely knew said, "You're the attic girl, right?" and then walked off. My coworker asked if I had a brother. Someone who looks just like you was seen standing outside my building for hours. I decided to record a final log, in case something happens to me. My voice is starting to change in the recordings. I hear clicks in my throat. And last night, I woke up on the ceiling, watching myself sleep, smiling. Tonight, I will go back to the attic one last time. I need to know what it is. But if you're hearing this, check your ceiling, check the hatch, and if you see a second chair, don't sit in it. I knew it was insane to go back. But something inside me had shifted, like a compass slowly, steadily spinning until it pointed home. Apartment 3B. It wasn't even my apartment anymore, but I still had the spare key taped under the old mailbox. No one had bothered to remove it. As I stepped into the unit, the air felt different than I remembered. Heavier, like it was filled with ash I couldn't see. The sound of the door closing behind me echoed far too long for such a small space. I turned toward the hallway and froze. The ceiling panel was open, not cracked or loose. Fully slid to the side, revealing the black square of the attic above. I hadn't touched it. I grabbed my flashlight, heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. With each step toward the hallway, the floor seemed to stretch. I counted 10 steps, then 12, then 15. I had never needed more than 6. The pull-down ladder was extended, waiting. I climbed it slowly, each rung groaning under me like the wood remembered. The air was icy up there, like it hadn't tasted warmth in decades. The attic was the same, but it wasn't. The chairs were gone, the Polaroids gone, but in their place, dozens of mirrors, all different sizes, leaned against the walls. Not a single one reflected me. In each one, the attic was empty, but something moved inside them, flickering between frames like a corrupted video. And then I saw it. In the farthest mirror, me, not my reflection, standing in a dark version of this attic, staring back. Except my eyes were completely black, and my smile didn't match the expression on my real face. I reached out to touch the mirror. She touched back from the inside. When her hand pressed against mine through the mirror, the glass didn't feel cold. It felt alive, warm and pulsing like skin. I yanked my hand back and stumbled, knocking into another mirror. This one cracked, a thin web across the middle. Through the fracture, I saw something move. Not me, not her, something else. It crawled along the mirrored attic floor with limbs too long for any human. Its arms folded backwards at the elbows, and its head, if you could call it that, looked like a smear of shadow across a foggy window. It didn't walk. It drifted, and it was watching us both. I turned, panicked, and the mirrors began to shake violently, rattling against the attic beams like they were going to shatter. And then came the sound. Not a voice, not breathing. Something worse. It was a sound I'd heard once as a child when my dog had gotten hit by a car. A gurgling, wet rasp that doesn't belong in the world. A low hum built beneath it. Familiar, rhythmic, a whisper. From mirror to flesh, from watcher to guest, my own voice. Whispering from behind me. I spun around and saw myself. Again, only this time, she wasn't behind glass. She stood in the attic with me. Smiling with teeth too many, too small, skin too smooth, like a mannequin baked in skin that never aged, never scarred. Her eyes were pitch voids, and I knew that she wasn't a reflection. She was what reflections become when they watch too long. I didn't run, because as I looked at her, I started to forget which one of us was real. I must have blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the living room floor of apartment 3B, covered in soot. My flashlight was gone, but daylight trickled through the blinds. I scrambled to the hallway. The attic panel was closed again. I bolted, left the building, didn't lock the door, didn't even check for my bag. I didn't stop running until I was inside my car, gasping for breath. I drove for hours, didn't care where. I just kept driving until the sun dipped low and the streetlights flickered on. Only then did I notice something in the rearview mirror, a smudge, like a thumbprint, oily and round, dead center on the glass. I wiped it. It came back. I checked the back seat. Empty. But when I glanced in the mirror again, the smudge had shifted. It wasn't a print. It was an eye. The eye blinked. Slow, deliberate. It wasn't human. Too large, with a sickly yellow iris and a pupil slit like a reptile's. I slammed my hand against the rearview mirror, desperate to wipe it away, but my hand passed right through the smudge, like it was a projection. My heart hammered in my chest, and I realized I was no longer alone in the car. A voice hissed from the shadows, "You can't run from what's behind the glass." I twisted around, but there was no one, just the faint outline of something dark, blending into the night. I gunned the engine and sped away, the city lights blurring past, but the feeling of being watched never left. Every glance in the mirror confirmed the eye was still there, following me. I must have blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the living room floor of apartment 3B, covered in soot. My flashlight was gone, but daylight trickled through the blinds. I scrambled to the hallway. The attic panel was closed again. I bolted, left the building, didn't lock the door, didn't even check for my bag. I didn't stop running until I was inside my car, gasping for breath. I drove for hours, didn't care where. I just kept driving until the sun dipped low and the streetlights flickered on. Only then did I notice something in the rearview mirror, a smudge, like a thumbprint, oily and round, dead center on the glass. I wiped it. It came back. I checked the back seat. Empty. But when I glanced in the mirror again, the smudge had shifted. It wasn't a print. It was an eye. The eye blinked. Slow, deliberate. It wasn't human. Too large, with a sickly yellow iris and a pupil slit like a reptile's. I slammed my hand against the rearview mirror, desperate to wipe it away, but my hand passed right through the smudge, like it was a projection. My heart hammered in my chest, and I realized I was no longer alone in the car. A voice hissed from the shadows, "You can't run from what's behind the glass." I twisted around, but there was no one, just the faint outline of something dark, blending into the night. I gunned the engine and sped away, the city lights blurring past, but the feeling of being watched never left. Every glance in the mirror confirmed the eye was still there, following me. I burst out of the building, gasping for air. The sun was rising, washing the world in gold. I felt safe, at least for now. But as I looked up, the symbol was burned into the sky, etched in clouds. The watchers were watching, and they were patient. I had a choice, to run forever, or to fight. I chose to fight. I began researching ancient rituals, symbols, and ways to seal breaches between worlds. I collected items, salt, candles, old mirrors. The attic was still waiting, and I had to return. I prepared the attic with salt lines and mirrors positioned to catch every angle. I lit candles, their flames flickering unnaturally. I read aloud the incantations from a dusty book I'd found buried in the basement. The attic shuddered. A low hum filled the air. As the ritual reached its peak, the mirror figures appeared, silent and menacing. I faced the one that looked like me. She smiled and whispered, "You cannot erase what's already inside." But I held my ground. The mirrors cracked, light bursting through. The watchers screamed, fading into dust. The breach was sealed. For now, dear listener, thank you for joining me on this unsettling journey into the unknown. Remember, some doors are better left closed, but curiosity often pulls us back inside. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. Until next time, sleep well, and watch the shadows. Good night.